Hey yous! Originally, so-called Indians were characterized as brutal savages and enemies who scalp people. Later, they became characterized as friends of pilgrims who supposedly celebrated Thanksgiving together. And the significance of young Pocahontas, who died at age 21, became common knowledge. Then, during the activist days of the 1960s and 1970s, the U.S. government proposed the term Native Americans to appease protesters. Eventually, we largely replaced the Indian term. Then Pocahontas began to be depicted as some type of heroine or superwoman when she only had a minor historical role. Sacagawea began to be depicted as leader of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Supposedly without her, Lewis and Clark would be befuddled failures and America would fail to be colonized. However, Sacagawea did not guide Lewis and Clark whatsoever. She was only useful as an interpreter and in diplomacy by talking to chiefs to ease tensions. Fast forward, the Washington Redskins football team has lost their trademark as a federal agency ruled that the team's name disparages so-called Native Americans. Amazon.com, Nike, Target, and Walmart have removed all Redskins-related merchandise from their sites and shelves. The Cleveland Indians baseball team caved under pressure to eliminate their Chief Wahoo logo, and some consider a name change. Land O'Lakes Butter Company removed their attractive drawing of a Native American woman in 2021, although she was on their packages for 100 years. The regal image of University of Illinois Chief Illinois was banned after being ruled hostile and offensive. Other companies also felt compelled to eliminate their so-called Native American symbolism. And longtime product images of blacks, though complimentary, were recently threatened with removal. That is, the people on Aunt Jemima, Cream of Wheat, Mrs. Butterworth's, and Uncle Ben's products. Back to Native American references. According to an internet source, 450 companies still have quote-unquote Native American mascots. They encompass companies which variously major in agriculture, beverages, business, clothing, computers, education, entertainment, finance, foods, paper goods, science, toys, and various other categories of products and services. It may come to the point where all of them fall to pressure to change things. And whenever a company makes such change, it costs them time and money. They say the name Indians came about because Christopher Columbus mistakenly thought he landed in India. Wrong! Columbus first referred to them as una gest in Dios, meaning a people in God. It was shortened to Indios for everyday use, then changed to Indian in the northern dialect. Besides, that region was called Hindustan at the time. The great Lakota warrior Sitting Bull, who rode in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, said, in English, "I was born an Indian and I will die an Indian." Even today, most people on reservations call themselves Indians, not Native Americans. Now to address the Indians' peaceful image. Most assume that Jamestown Colony in 1610 was North America's first established white settlement. Not exactly. The lost colony of Roanoke was established in 1585, but was completely massacred by American Indians. In 1607, James Fort was established in Virginia, but it too was massacred by Indian tribes. Reinforcements finally arrived to keep the Indians at bay and transformed James Fort into Jamestown. And the Fort Mims massacre was the worst on either side of the ongoing conflict between white settlers and Indians. In it, 250 whites, mostly women and children, died at the hands of marauding Indians. So considering these facts and many other documented cases of Indian brutality, authors of the United States Declaration of Independence were correct when they refer to them as, I quote, "the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions." Despite that, the Catholic Church not only promoted American Indian ways in the spirit of cultural relativism, the Pope and cardinals allowed and promoted the worship of Inca gods in Vatican City. Yet foreign gods were completely unacceptable and antithetical to Christianity throughout its history. Besides, Inca Indians participated in human sacrifice, including murder of children. So did Aztecs and Mayans, who were polytheistic as well. Besides, European Americans brought Christianity to our shores and made us a free nation. Our people introduced great architecture, law, medicine, prosperity, and security. They brought Western classical civilization to our continent, its philosophies, histories, poetry, plays, and music to our land. Our craftsmen, inventors, and scientists gave us the technology that ultimately accomplished man's greatest achievements, and our forefathers endured untold sacrifices and hardships to build our nation. But were American Indians here first? And do they therefore deserve the term indigenous or native, since those terms mean being the original known inhabitants of an area, in contrast to groups that colonized, occupied, or settled here more recently? Now, there is a strong challenge to the commonly held hypothesis that American Indians were here first via migration from Eurasia over Beringia, a former land bridge connecting the two continents. That is the Solutrean hypothesis, that white European settlers first came here by boats around 20,000 years ago and were likely the ancient mound builders. But even for argument's sake, they were another Indian race instead. The various tribes were divided against each other and had a hand in destroying one another through wars. And regardless of what so-called Native Americans were not here first, many living things were here first, which early tribes hunted to extinction and wiped off the face of the earth. Among them were the American mastodon, American mountain deer, American lion, bison, antiquus, camelops, dire wolf, Florida spectacle bear, pygmy mammoth, saber-toothed cat, giant short-faced bear, steppe lion, woolly mammoth, and others. In summary, white forefathers allowing American Indians to have their reservations was actually being generous. So repudiate the false god of political correctness and aggressively oppose those who are hell-bent on destroying everything about American culture and history and traditional wholesome values.